Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Thomas. So Thomas, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Thomas Anzivino. I live in Austin, Texas. This year, I opened my own financial planning firm, Longitude Financial Planning. So I'm working to provide financial services to young up-and-comers around Austin.
Awesome. So what got you into this industry? Like, what made you want to be a financial planner?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are interested in stocks in the stock market, and I was no different. From a young age, the stock trading game in school, in public schools, I think a lot of us have done that. And when I was young, my team got like second in the state, and we got a day out of school, and it was really memorable for me. So when I graduated from college, I was in biotech to begin, but got into finance eventually, and here I am, and I love helping people. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, like having your own experience in school and then seeing the need for, obviously there's always going to be like a need for financial planning. So in terms of exactly like what you do, like what does a typical day look like for you currently?
Yeah. So currently I'm meeting with as many people as possible, trying to understand the issues that they're facing. For example, I met a guy recently at a cafe. We started talking. I said, I'm a financial planner. He had a finance background as well. I was like, well, is there anything that you feel like, is bugging you? He was like, yeah, I have this inherited IRA and I just have no idea what the tax implications are. And I'm like, that's really like a good, like, I understand how stressful that could be. So I was like, what's your email? I'll get back to you with some information about that. Got back, had a nice like flow chart. It was complicated, not simple. I'm not going to go into the details, but
Sure.
but he was happy with the information that I provided, and it, just got him into this peaceful zone with his finances where took some stress off of him.
Awesome. So it's like, how exactly do you work with people? Like, if somebody wanted to work with you, like, what's an ideal client for you?
Yeah, ideal client is a young up and coming, looking to make a change in their finances. They have goals. They have an idea of how to get there. And my job is coming in and maximizing their potential to reach those goals.
For
So,
sure. So
yeah.
do you work with people who have like a lot of debt, or I guess like what does that look like for you?
Debt management is part of what I do. A number of my clients have negative net worths, frankly. And it's a source of stress for them. They don't take it as net worth is not self-worth, right?
Right.
But it bugs them, right? And they're trying to get on a stable footing for their future. When you have a debt and you have obligations you need to pay, you might be locked into a job you don't like. You might not be able to move cities. Your options are limited. So I help them work through. We go through a payment plan, get all the debts all organized, and then work forward. Yeah.
What do you recommend, I guess, like if somebody is in like, obviously it's not like a one size fits all answer, but if somebody has lots of debt accumulated, like how do you kind of work with them specifically to get them out of that debt and to get them more on a better path in their life?
Yeah. So the answer it has to do with budgeting. And budgeting for a lot of people is like, ugh, budgeting. Like, yeah, it's this big, boring thing. I've tried it, people have tried it and they hate it. You can't stick with it. So what I'm able to do at Longitude is get the best software programs to make it as easy as possible. So I use Monarch Money with my clients. It's a cutting edge solution. You put in you connect your accounts, it's all the transactions together, categorize those transactions. And then you're able to see the patterns of your spending versus what you're taking in, and make decisions about, I am intentionally spending hundreds of dollars eating out per week, right? Or, oh, I'm spending hundreds of dollars working at eating out, and I hadn't even thought of it. So budgeting is all about awareness and making sure that your spending is in line with your values.
So how do you get people to kind of like, accept those things, like make those sacrifices? Because I think for like a lot of people who accumulate lots of debt, there's obviously various reasons, but sometimes people are overspending to try and keep like a certain lifestyle. So to get out of debt, right? I mean, obviously budgeting, cutting back your expenses, getting into more of like not as exquisite of a lifestyle, let's say. So how do you kind of like work with people to, get like on that path?
Yeah. So I think it's about delaying gratification and that it's just temporary, right? So I help people see the light at the end of the tunnel, and at the end of the day, they have to be making those hard decisions, right? I'm not the person who's limiting them in any way, but I'll just help them be aware of what they're spending. I'll make suggestions, I personally love the rotisserie chickens from HEB. It's like $8. I get like 2 or 3 meals out of it. And I'm a happy camper. Like I don't need much more than that. But I also love going out, to like an omakase every now and then.
Right.
So yeah, it's just about balance, I'd say.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like that's the biggest challenge for many folks is like when you're used to doing something in order to cut back expenses, it's like to your point, what do you give up? Like, what do you not need? And what can you spend? Like, for example, I don't know, you might have like a super high car payment or a gym payment or other things. You can kind of cut back and say, listen, like maybe this is not the right, gym for me or car for me. How do I go about cutting those expenses?
Yeah, a big one is subscriptions. People sign up for things, maybe a free trial, put in the credit card information, and then here you are 6 months later, not really using it anymore. And that's another cool thing. Monarch Money has this whole calendar. It puts reoccurring payments on there. So a lot of quick wins have come from the payment calendar in Monarch Money.
100%. One thing that you mentioned that you mentioned to me before, which is kind of interesting, right, is that many people in this industry are very focused on, people that, work in certain industries, certain high net worth individuals or professionals, right? But you mentioned that for you, that you're kind of really focused on more younger folks, and it's kind of like industry agnostic, that you can work with people. It doesn't matter what they do for a living. So I'm just curious, like, can you talk more about that?
Yeah, definitely. One of the pieces of advice I was given was to go work with engineers, go work with software engineers, high paying careers, and you'll be successful doing that. Don't work with teachers, don't work with firefighters. Like these people don't make enough money. It just, you couldn't find success that way. And that might have been true in the traditional sense where you're doing assets under management. But I work on a flat fee and I have no minimums. I like to serve those people who have been ignored by the traditional industry. So I've kind of built my business to cater to those people. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. And I think that most people don't realize who are in different professions that they can actually work with someone like yourself. But they probably think that this is for somebody who's, I think, a super high net worth, can only work with a financial planner. But to your point, and what we've spoken about before as well, that really anybody could use your services. I think especially younger people figuring out how much do you budget, like you said, or if they're in debt, how do you get out of debt? Like, what do you really need to do, to, achieve that next milestone in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I do. Get everything together and help those people maximize their goals.
Hey y'all, it's Dan Melnick, the CEO of Zing. And I wanted to share a special offer for all of our listeners. Right now, if you need software development services, we'll give you 2 weeks of a free trial. Do you need to update your website? Do you want to build a mobile app? Do you want to update something that you've been working on for a long time? We've worked in a high-level technologies like AI, machine learning, blockchain. So shoot me a text, 817-874-2208. Thank you.
So you mentioned obviously that you're based here in Austin, just like I am, but do you work with people just in Austin or all around the country? What does that look like?
Yeah, so right now about half my clients are in Austin and the other half are around the country. So it's a national business, all completely remote. I've worked lowering my cost structure. You know, I don't have a fancy office. I don't have a staff. I might someday when the business grows have a staff at least. I don't think I'll ever have an office. You know, I would much prefer to rent a private office space for the one-off meeting.
Right,
Uh,
exactly.
and then pass those savings on to my clients because there's no value in a piece of mahogany furniture just sitting in an office somewhere.
100%. And obviously that you just started this company recently. So I'm curious, like if you could go back in time before you got started, like what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew about this business?
Oh man, yeah. So for my whole life, I've basically ignored marketing. I've done sales, but it's been like person to person, door to door, existing client base, but never like kind of broad based, like one to many kind of marketing. And so I was working on other things and I was like, I don't need to know all this marketing stuff. But now here I am being like, oh man, learning as much as I possibly can, as quick as I can. Yeah.
Yeah, marketing is super important. Like especially in 2024, people are looking at your content as like an authority figure in the space, and it's a great way to get in front of more people. So on that note, if we're going to have this conversation again in 1 year from now, where do you see things going for your business?
Yeah. So I will have broken even. I have some runway, but it's not infinite. So I will have broken even. That'll take a lot of stress off me. I will likely have my CFP designation. I've completed all the educational portions of that, so that's next up. And I'll have gathered a good group of people, all ambitious, members, and introduced them all to each other, built a community, and kind of built a flywheel of good people doing good things.
Awesome. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you, do you mind sharing your website or social media? I guess best ways to get in contact.
Yeah, so phone or email's good. It's on my website, longitudefinancialplanning.com. LinkedIn's also good. Thomas Anzivino, Longitude Financial Planning.
Awesome. Well, Thomas, thanks so much for your time today.
You too, Dan. Thanks.